Hello and welcome to Murphy's Garden, and this is a kind of lots of itty bitty jobs catchy up video today. I am full of cold, so I'm going to try and do sort of inside jobs because it's all drizzly and not very pleasant outside as well. But one of the jobs I'm doing is, so I've been collecting all these seeds from the spent flowers in the garden. So a lot of this is one of the packets that I sowed last year. This is Zinnia eleganus, Zinderella, the Zinderella series, which were lovely, really lovely. Grew them principally for Olivia's Tatton garden, but I also had them in my garden, especially once they were finished in her garden. And so I haven't got any left, and I really like them. So in order to keep them going, it's really important to collect seed, otherwise I'll have to buy more. So this is the spent flower. It looks like that when it's spent. And then all I do is I just leave them in the shed for, I've left them in here for a couple of weeks really. And when you've sown your own seed, you start to recognise what the seeds look like. So you can find amongst all this, you can work out which the seed is, and this is it here. So I'm just going to separate the seeds, collect them, and then normally I would just put them in an envelope, but I got a bit carried away, as I keep doing in my shed, where I start doing arty crafty things when I've got thousands of other things to do outside. But I made all these little envelopes, and what I find with some of these, the ordinary seed packets, that sometimes they open inside my tin and they get spilt out. So I thought I would create a little locking system on the seed packet, so when I've used it I can just lock them so that they can't tip out, they can't spill out, and they're safe. So I've been making these little envelopes, and then I thought it'd be fun just to, I'm not very good at art, but I thought I'll just have a little sketch of some of the flowers so I know what's inside them. So this is the acroclinium, the giant straw flower, pink cosmos, we've got, that's pink cosmos. That's Calendula officinalis, Indian Prince, which was lovely. And that's the Florist Dill, which has produced masses and masses of seeds. And then the Antirrhina majus, and that's the Costa apricot. And we've also got the, what's the other one called? Apple blossom. So I've been collecting all these seeds. And then what I'm doing in the greenhouse, if you want to come and have a look at that, I've been sowing a lot of the hardy annuals, so not the things that are, that aren't hardy, but things that are hardy and that can go through the winter, like antirrhinums, and a lot of the grasses fall into this category. So we'll go and have a look at some of the things that I've got growing in the greenhouse, and everything's doing really well. I normally don't start any seed sowing until the spring. Partly because my greenhouse is usually full of the tomatoes, but because I've had such a disastrous tomato season, I got on and cleared the greenhouse, and so it's given me an opportunity to seed sow. So I'm going to experiment with that, and I think that will be good because last spring it was rather chaotic. I decided to grow so much stuff that I had seedlings absolutely everywhere. The greenhouse, no matter what size greenhouse you get, it's never big enough. Everybody says that, and it's so true. So if I can get a head start and get some things planted out this side of Christmas before the new year, then they can put their roots down, get to be nice strong plants, and we can have earlier flowering. And one of the reasons I want to do that particularly is because the area, our new tree area, we've got the circle in the middle with the Crataegus persimilis prunifolia, the cockspur hawthorn in the middle, and underneath I thought about planting like a wildflower meadow, but actually I'm really loving having all these, somewhere to put all these annuals and things that I've been growing. So I want to do that again. So I thought if I can get a head start and get some of those, growing now, then obviously I'll have them a lot sooner because I want to enjoy them all year. So that's my plan. Alistair's been away in Canada. He's just got back from Canada and has brought me some gifts. So I'm going to decorate my shed with some of my Canada signs and stickers and things that he brought back. Had a fantastic time and thought the Canadians were incredibly friendly and absolutely lovely. They've got family, Alistair and his dad. Alistair's dad's father was Canadian, so they've got family out there. So it was lovely to see all the family and to meet up with them. So that was great, and that's it really. So let's just look at how to collect seed, how to go about it. So this is the centre circle that I was talking about, and everything's looked fabulous here all summer, but you can see it's starting to fade a bit. Here we've got the antirrhinums, different colours. We've got that's the apple blossom one, and then there's some white, and there's some of the Costa. So ideally choose a nice dry day. If it's not completely dry, you're going to leave the seeds on the bench to dry anyway before you attempt to collect. So it's not a huge problem if it is a little bit damp. So here this zinnia isn't quite ready, but this straw flower definitely is, so we can collect some of those. And the antirrhinums in this part of the garden aren't quite ready, but here elsewhere in the garden, here is some seed that is ready, so we can just dry that off. And here's a calendula flower, and just next to it is this one which is ready. It's gone to seed beautifully. Lovely little curly little seeds come from calendula. They look like little bugs. And as well as annuals, we can also collect seed from perennials, and this is Echinacea purpurea magnus, and we'd like some more of this, more stock. So simply just collect the seed in the same way, which we'll come on to in a minute. And you can do it in things like Astrantia. This one is called Jill Richardson, beautiful one, flowers all summer. And here is some beautiful viable seed that we can use. And also here is some Heleniums. So again, we'll try and see if there's some seed in there. So we'll head now into the shed and we'll look at some of the seed that I saved a couple of weeks ago. It's been drying on the bench for probably about 2 weeks. And this one is a zinnia flower. The seeds in a flower are located in the seed pod or the seed head of the spent bloom. The seeds form in the ovary of the flower if it has been fertilised and develop to maturity. Flower seeds come in many different types of plants, and the type of seed can be as varied as the plants themselves. If you've sown the seed yourself, you'll probably recognise it. And if you've still got some of the old seed, then have a look at it just to familiarise yourself to see what you're looking for. And when you're trying to find where the seed is in the flower, if you just, it's not attached to the petal, but rather the bit in the middle, just pull it like that. When it's dry, it comes away really, really easily. And if I put that really close, you can hopefully just see all these little seedlings attached to it. And what you can do, as you take them, they've got the little sort of husk attached to them, the fluffy bit, which you don't necessarily want. It won't matter if you do get a few of them in there. But the seed, when it's really dry, the seed will just come away quite easily. Some seeds are attached to structures like this one, which is attached to the chaff, which if left allows them to become airborne and they will float on the breeze. And seeds can vary such a lot in size and shape and are in no way a reflection of the size of the flowers to be. For example, the massive flowering spikes of foxgloves come from the tiniest of pinpoint sized seeds. And just look at the number of seeds that you get just from one flower. So this is what the flower looks like. And this is my interpretation of said flower. And I won't be sowing these particular seeds until the spring, because if they germinated now, they're not hardy and they wouldn't survive the frost. So the seeds just go into this envelope where they'll be kept somewhere cool and dry and dark over the winter months, ready for spring. The other things I really need to collect seed for, because I've run out, is this. This is Scabiosa stellata, which you grow principally for these beautiful little seed heads. So once the petals come off, they look like this and they're absolutely lovely. So I'm going to look for some seed. And then this is the Craspedia globosa, which you grow for these lovely little yellow drumsticks, and they dry really well. So this is the Scabiosa and this is the Craspedia. So I just need to let that dry a little bit more before I can collect. So we'll go to the greenhouse. The other thing I've got to do, we've forecast some hard frosts coming in later next week. So I have got to harvest as much as I can outside. I do want to get the potatoes up. I'm quite late digging the potatoes up. So I want to get those dug up and dried off. I'll probably put them in the greenhouse to dry. So let's go in the greenhouse and see how things are doing. So we'll head into the greenhouse. I've taken the covers off everything so you can see. It's lovely and warm in here. And now we've got two things going on here. This side there is no heat. There's some of the pansies left over, which I thought might be nice in that little pot, some of the little terracotta pots. But here, so on this side there's no heat, and on this side there is heat. So I've never had electricity in the greenhouse. This is the first autumn that I've had it. Alistair put the electrics in last spring, which really helps get things going. But for hardy annuals, you don't need it. So I've done an experiment to see how it's worked. So on this side, especially with the antirrhinums, we've got antirrhinums Costa. This is the lovely peachy colour one. So they have germinated. But on this side, we've got the antirrhinums apple blossom. So you can see they're just a little bit further forward. And the soil, we just have the soil is just sitting at 20 degrees. So it's just lovely and toasty. And these are all ready to be pricked out. The only thing that hasn't germinated quite so well is this. This is the Salvia viridis. It's quite old seed actually. It was seed from the packet, so perhaps it's getting a little bit long in the tooth and not doing so well. But here we've got apple blossom antirrhinum. We've got the white nicotiana, which I collect the seed, and it's very prolific. When you collect the seed, you get masses of it. So I think I've got the tendency to overseed really when you've got so much. And then that's the Ami visniger. So Ami visniger we grew this year, and it was very late to flower. So I thought if I can get that started a bit sooner, we can have it a little bit sooner. This is Dorcas carota, which I've never grown before. But that's germinated. And this is a verbascum, which I just found an old seed packet. I thought I'll just give it a go. And then here we've got Nigella. Some Nigella there, so they can be direct sown, but I'm just experimenting really, so I'm going to get on and prick some of these out. And the job I dislike but is really important, and that is just to clean all the seed trays and all the covers, get all this horrible green algae off them, because we don't want any diseases being spread. So that's all lovely and clean, and we'll just take them all back up to the greenhouse and let them dry off a little bit and ready to sow again. And in addition to some of the things I've already sown, I want to try and sow some more Erigeron carvinskiensis. This is the little daisy that tumbles out of the containers with the osmanthus either side of the path as you go into the parterre, and it works really well. It looks lovely and it looks really soft and beautiful. And what I want to do is do the same in the big container, the big circular container up the top, because the edging on that just jars a little bit for me. I want it just to soften that edge, and then the other planting will be in the middle. So I'm going to need lots of plants. So looking at these containers either side of the path is quite difficult to find ones that have gone over, but I think I've managed to. So I've just collected the seed. It's really difficult to see because it's very tiny, but I think you can just make out just here in the middle of the brown paper, you can just see the seed, and it's that which I'm going to just cast over the soil. And my next little job is to pot on these. This is the grass. This is called Brisa maxima, or also known as quaking grass, greater quaking grass. And it's got really big. You can see it's got so big, so really dead easy to handle. And all I'm going to do is pot each one into an individual little cell, and they'll sit here. They're hardy, so they'll sit here in the greenhouse over the winter, just putting roots down, ready to have a good start in the spring, get off to a very quick start. So we'll just speed things up a bit. We've got 2 trays full. We've got more still if we need it, but for now we'll just pot on 2 trays worth. And there we are, all done. Isn't that satisfying? And I've had a lovely afternoon, productive afternoon in my greenhouse. And you'll see that I've brought all the succulents in. I've got quite a succulent collection, which I have on the little ladder normally in the summer, but now it's time to bring them in, because if I leave them out, they start to rot off. So they already are a little bit. So I've just tidied them up a little bit, and I'll bring them in here for the winter. And then I've been busy just potting on some of the little seedlings. Everything's doing quite well, and we'll get a head start on next year. I've cleaned all the trays and everything's super clean, so we don't spread any diseases. And the little propagators are on here, so it's getting really chilly. So I'm going to get these all covered up for the night, tuck them in, and I'm just going to head outside and harvest some vegetables. So first we'll dig up some more of the potatoes. I planted lots of different types of potatoes, so I can't really remember which are which, but I've certainly had lots of them. They've all been very successful this year. And as you can see, Murphy is helping or not.
as the case may be. This is what he does when he wants his dinner, which is now 5 o'clock, it's dinner time. This is his way of telling me he wants his dinner. He can read the time, he's very clever like that. But you have to wait, Murphy, because I've just got to get our dinner sorted before I do yours. He's licking his lips. So we've got a really good supply of potatoes, and there's more still in the ground. I've got to dig up the rest. And here's the pears. The pears, we've had a prolific crop of pears. We had hardly any last year. We had about 3 last year, and the year before we had a glut like we have this year. So they're absolutely lovely. We just have to make sure we get through them all. So we're having pears every day for puddings and starters. And then the last really of the French beans. They've been very productive as well this year, but they're not really very hardy, so they will probably get killed off by the frost. And it's not just flowers that you can save the seed, you can obviously do the same with vegetables. So some of the bigger ones, I'll keep those, put them on my bench and just dry off the seed, and we'll plant those again next year. And I've also picked the pumpkins and the green tomatoes, which I'll just put in the greenhouse. The skin of the pumpkins will harden off, and maybe the tomatoes will ripen a little bit more. And a few freshly picked lettuce leaves for dinner and a few ripe tomatoes. So greenhouse is all tucked up for the night, and it's just starting to spit a little bit with rain. So let's get this lot in before we get soaked. So thank you very much for watching, and join us again in the next video. Bye for now.